We live in troubled times, challenged by human impact on our planet and injustices in our society. We also confront danger and fear, all because of self-interest. The Humanistic Buddhism Center was founded within this world with an informed mission to bring the best of our shared humanity back through teaching support, linked historic and current research, and community outreach.
The NTI Ethos project is dedicated to understanding how humanistic Buddhism values are embodied and expressed throughout every organizational entity at NTI.
The challenge for Nan Tien Institute, along with all organisations, is to bring to life the ethos in its classrooms, its offices and community activities, and not let it languish as well-meaning words on an advertising brochure. That's the focus of this research project.
In a way, the network is special because we try to go beyond studies of Buddhist doctrines to tell the stories of Buddhism as a lived religion. Humanistic Buddhism does not exist in isolation. As it meets the plurality of Buddhism in different parts of the world, we want to understand how it shapes and becomes shaped by all these different agents and conditions it comes across.
Our HBC strategy seeks depth and understanding. Our global community of translators, editors, and proofreaders provide quality translation of key articles on humanistic Buddhism from Chinese into English. We do this using an innovative cloud-based process. Beginning in our 4th volume, we've included select English articles as well. Our e-journal is available on the website for scholars and students.
What we hope the NTI Visualizer does for you is to help you quickly make sense of the growing research on engaged and humanistic Buddhism. It features an interactive interface, graphically representing our extensive survey of research on humanistic Buddhism. Simply select the collection, enter your search term, and we'll get you to the publications that matter the most.
Members of the NTI Communities of Practice take time out for just 30 minutes every week to reflect and recharge at the Sunday check-in sessions. Led by experienced facilitators and building upon the wisdom of the entire group, it has become a healing space for friends from all around the world to pause, practice, and connect.
The Humanistic Buddhism Center is at a new threshold, with a strong platform now, like an earthworm providing nutrition at the roots of a beautiful flowering and food-producing sacred garden. We provide support for humanity's future. We welcome new contributors to join our community.
The symposium will bring us together as an international community to discuss humanistic Buddhist responses to modern crises, a topic that prompts us to explore the range of serious threats to humanity and imagine our shared future. 30 respected panelists from around the world will be presenting dialogues addressing how we can apply Buddhist insights, along with scientific research, geopolitics, and humanistic values within the wider community and people's daily lives, and co-create the future with compassion and wisdom.
It is my great honour and privilege to welcome you all to the 8th International Symposium on Humanistic Buddhism, hosted by For Guangshan and the Nan Tien Institute. My name is Alex Trout-Goik. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Wollongong and a long-time member of the Nan Tien Communities of Practice. Today, however, I'm lucky enough to be assuming the role of your Master of Ceremonies. This event is organised by For Guangshan Institute of Humanistic Buddhism in Taiwan and Nan Tien Institute in Australia. And this is the first time in the history of the symposium that it is being held outside of Asia, out of the hope that Eastern and Western thinkers may cross paths and work together towards a greater future. It has been another challenging year for the world, and while the coming 3 days are about comprehending and boldly staring down the challenges we are met with as individuals, communities, and a species, more importantly, it is the chance to envision and step towards a brighter, more humane future for all. We meet here today with open eyes, keen to see, open ears, willing to listen, and open hearts, eager to be of service. Guided by our expert speakers and panelists, we will reach our outstretched hands, point to a destination outside the walls of crisis, and take the first step in that direction together. If this pandemic has taught us anything, it is that we can no longer view our problems in isolation. We must recognize that personal actions add up to collective consequences, and that collective decisions impact the trajectory of personal lives. The problems that we face today are interconnected, complex, and rapidly evolving. They are abstract, hard to grasp, and often disconnected from our individual lived experience. At times like this, it can prove difficult to keep faith. In who or what ought we place our trust? You can turn to the person beside you and recognize the Buddha nature in them. Have faith in our shared humanity. Our shared humanity speaks to our capacity for empathy, self-reflection, and rationality in the face of hopelessness and confusion. We've seen this side of us in troves over the last several months. Our frontline workers and those working behind the scenes, making sure the lights stay on and our supermarket shelves stay stacked. The phone or video calls to reassure loved ones now far and distant. The mate who sacrifices his last roll of toilet paper for the friend who's fresh out of luck. Our shared humanity also speaks to our weaknesses and vulnerability, our susceptibility to cognitive bias, our desire for conceptual simplicity, for someone towards which we can extend a pointed finger and blame for this terrible mess. Reflecting on our shared humanity sheds light on how easily we can be manipulated, how attention can be trained to focus on the negative, on conspiracy, on outrage, how our emotions are toyed with by systems beyond our comprehension in service of profit or a political agenda. In the same way that we are each vulnerable to this virus, we are each susceptible to the pathogen of human hubris. The intent of this symposium is to encourage interdisciplinary dialogues, stimulate creativity, and show how humanistic values can be applied to overcome the challenges that we face. Emerging from crisis, we are provided with opportunities to reorganize. And our keynote speakers, Professor Hugh Mackay and Professor Lewis Lancaster, will shed light on the doors that have been opened to change. We are not here to protest problems. We are here to co-create an inclusive vision of the future inspired by our shared humanity. I would now like to pass the baton to Professor Gawain Bodkin-Andrews for an acknowledgement of country.
Hello, my name is Gawain Bodkin-Andrews. I'm a proud Darrow man, and I'm the son of Arnie Francis Bodkin. I've been given the honour to give the acknowledgement of country for this prestigious event, so thank you very much. I'll do so in language. In the Darrow language, it's been passed on to me by both my mother and my father, and this acknowledgement, will be split into 3 parts. Firstly, it will be about myself. Secondly, it will be the essence of the acknowledgement in itself. And then finally, we'll finish with some wishes for you all. Gaba Radadani do Billy Minyeo, Nandirio mi Minin Galamban Darawa, Bidiculo Naramadico to Rally Diawa, Nadagaino Wa, Bidiga Merani Bakula, with a Jilliban Waterta. Galamban Daro Naro Wa, Ding a Dugo Wa. Galamban Denaya, Gamada Guria, Ding a Dugo Wa. Ganangara, Wadi Wadi, Yun Dark, Yora, Nangawa, Gamerego, Gudia, Gu O, Gu Ba, Ding a Dugo Wa. Ni Yini Bulima Nandilita, Ni Yini Galang Gambi Mirun, Ni imi nara wadea kalongjana. Roughly translated. Firstly, I ask for you to all acknowledge something that I'm aware of about myself, and that is I wear the mask of white privilege. That means that I can walk down the street at night and not worry about being insulted. That means I can go to train stations and not worry about access or abilities to walk up and down stairs and if there are lifts or not. It means I cannot worry about being harassed or even assaulted by the police. And this is because of the mask of white privilege itself. At the same time, I ask you to understand that I was born and raised as a Dharma man. And I'm connected to the Bidikul and Nadamadical waters, the bitter and sweet waters of the inland Dharma clans. And that my blood is directly connected to the first two grandmothers, the first two storytellers in Religurban and Waratah. The second part of the acknowledgement is for us all. It's where I gave my respect to the Dharma lands of which I am currently sitting upon. And I gave my respect to all the surrounding nation groups, all the surrounding clans who may have also walked these lands. The Gandanga, the Wadi Wadi, the Yuan, the Darug, the Eora, the Nangawal, the Gemaregu, as they may also have connections to these lands. And their ancestors may have also walked upon these lands. We must always respect this. And then I gave my respect to elders of the past, the present, and the future, for we must realize that through the teachings of our ancestors, their wisdoms will be passed on not only to ourselves, but to our future generation. Finally, with a wish, I simply wished that we all see the beauty of this earth, that we all feel the warmth of the flame, and that we all hear the laughter of the children. To Jolly Guru, thank you. And before I finish this acknowledgement, I just wish to tell you not a story per se, but tell you of our stories and how important they are, and more importantly, how important it is to listen. For in the onslaught of colonization and the ongoing individualistic colonial mentalities that still work systematically towards our cultural genocide today, sometimes the teachings of our ancestors become lost. And so our ways of knowing, being, and doing can be forgotten, and the important lessons of our stories become too often ignored. We become disconnected. It is through our stories, it is through our songs that we can both remember and teach. For example, the story of Religurban, the lyrebird, tells of a great, great fire, of how the mothers and the fathers, the aunties and the uncles, in their panic, they forgot about the young and their abilities, or their lack of abilities to flee this fire, for they did not have the strength to travel so fast and so far. So it was the old grandmother Wiradjurban who saved the young from the fire, but in doing so she sacrificed her own life. Her reward was to become the lyrebird itself, to watch over, to teach, to guide, to sing to the youth throughout all our generation. We have the story of the Migadin, a powerful river spirit who waged war on all of our Dharawal men, who in their gluttony had mindlessly hunted and killed her children for both food and fun, to the extent that there was no fish left in the Badago River. It was not until the Migadin was trapped inside a great waterhole and tasked with protecting a sacred woman's birthing place that peace again settled upon the lands. And maybe one day she will remember to forgive. We have the story of the Gagamari, the great magic man, who held a meeting to discover who was the most powerful of their kind. But in doing so, they created a greater monster, the Muragarang, who preyed upon our peoples for many, many generations. Then we have the story of the Buddha Garang itself, where it was not until all of our peoples, all of the animals, all of the entities on country came together and respected our individual strengths and came together with the collective strength, that the monster itself was finally overcome. We have the story of Talara Ting, when the replenishing warmth of the sun was perpetually smothered by clouds, and everyone in their misery had forgotten the old ways. It was not until Tian, named after the brightest star in the sky, a star she had never seen, it was not until Tiani remembered the stories of the place of secrets and returned to this near-frozen land, this near-frozen place of significance, and brought back a warmth to the lands through caring for country. It was then that the flannel flower bloomed for the first time, and the sun returned to signal the end of an extremely long winter. Each of these stories in their true telling contain many layers of meaning and many different lessons. But each of these layers of meaning, each of these lessons share something of great importance. And that is our responsibilities to each other, our interconnectedness to not only each other as human beings, but to the sacred country we are caretakers of, and of all the entities we share these lands with. We are connected to each other. We are connected to the animals, the insects, the waterways, the mountains, the clouds, the sky, the sun and the moon, and even the planets and the stars. They are all part of our stories. We all have stories that can connect us. But this will only take place if we truly learn to listen. Uru Wonga Nali Nali, please remember to always walk in the sunlight. To Jolly Guru, thank you.
Thank you, Gawain, for that thoughtful acknowledgement. It is now my pleasure to introduce a video address by the founder of For Guangshan Buddha's Light International Association and its universities, including Nan Tien Institute, who has envisioned this symposium as a platform to encourage dialogue between people of all professions and their connection with humanistic Buddhism. Venerable Master Hsing Yun. 恭请佛光山开善星云大师开示。
大家平安吉祥。今天和各位要讲的是缘起法。释迦牟尼佛当初在菩提树下金刚座上悟道了。悟的什么道？就是缘起。这个宇宙之间呢，所有一切东西都是要因缘才能生起，因缘也难消灭，所以缘起缘灭。这个道理啊，听起来好像很简单。实际上，它的意义啊，非常的深奥，不容易了解。我们平常要说，哎呀，我们有缘来相会啊，我们大家有缘啊，能聚在一起啊，这个好像很突出、很懂，不是很简单。原来这个缘起啊，它有一所谓事要得理者才能成，是空。缘起要以有才能立，有要以空才能安立。果要有因，因才能成果。所以这个因缘起是无论什么东西，都必须要很多的条件。你像我们大家能够生活在这个社会上，生存在世间。要靠因缘，所以这个佛出世也是要佛有缘佛出世，无缘佛而灭。我们也是一样，我们吃饭要农夫种田，我们要创意， 要供人之补。我们要买日用物品，要伤人经商。假如没有他们，我们一个人能单独存在吗？所以这个世界呀，是相互依存，要有缘，要有条件才能存在。这一张桌子，它一定要有木材，要有工人，要有洋鼎，要有很多的工具，把它做成这个桌子。这一栋房子也要有水泥、砖头、瓦呀，很多的材料，它才能为房子。我们一个人的皮啊、肉啊、骨头啊、血液啊，所以精神、活力、有形的、无形的很多的条件，我才能活着。假如这许多条件没有了，因缘散了，所以这个过去佛教讲四大皆空，就四种各种因缘，地水火风因缘和合的人世间人生，要缘才能起，因缘不起，因缘也会灭。所以我们呢要广种福田，广结善缘。如果缘你广结善缘，你就到处，你不要去找人家帮忙，因缘也来找你。你平常没有结缘呢，你到了要人家来帮忙，也没有人来帮忙你。所以这个缘起法懂得，一个人就可能做善事、做功德，就为大家去服务，这是最能成功的。祝福大家。
谢谢。I would now like to welcome the president of Nan Tien Institute, Denise Kirkpatrick, for her welcome address.
Venerable Master Hsing Yun, Abbess, Venerable Manco, distinguished guests, participants and colleagues. Thank you for joining us for this symposium, which is a collaboration between Nan Tien Institute and Fo Guangshan universities. This is the 8th symposium to be generously supported by the Hsing Yun Foundation. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we are meeting. Gawain, thank you for your welcome to country. It's my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to each of you. It's wonderful to have you join us from all corners of the globe. The diversity of our audience today illustrates the reach and power of our community. Our more than 500 participants include scholars, students, practitioners, and international colleagues. Welcome. Our keynote addresses will be delivered by renowned writers and thinkers, Emeritus Professor Lewis Lancaster and Mr. Hugh Mackay, AO. Thank you. The theme of the symposium is Humanistic Buddhist Responses to Modern Crises, with a focused dialogue addressing the challenge, never waste a crisis, a human response to disruption. Now, more than ever before, we are challenged to respond to ubiquitous and profound disruption and uncertainty. When we reflect on our experiences over the past 2 years, for most of us, these will have been shaped by the COVID-19 pandemic. We will recall the indicators of crisis, our feelings of confusion, disbelief, suspicion, anger, grief, isolation, and loneliness. But we have also been buoyed and reassured by stories and acts of courage and resilience, hope, innovation, collaboration, and compassion. COVID was the crisis that touched us all in so many ways. No one was immune from its effects. It impacted all aspects of society and life, from our everyday interactions with others, how we worked, learned, socialised, and our relationships with friends and family, to international relations, public policy, the economy, employment, poverty, inequality, and of course, health, including mental health. COVID is arguably the most pressing crisis of our time that has in turn generated other crises and indeed emerged from pre-existing crises. The timeliness and relevance of this symposium is clear. Crises create an imperative for understanding how to act effectively in situations that defy a sense of possibility. While times of change and uncertainty challenge, they also provide us with the opportunity and motivation to reassess our values and what matters most. We have quite rightly been extremely focused on the symptoms of the crisis created by COVID, and we should now turn our minds to addressing these consequences and to delivering solutions. Solutions that are a matter of hope, compassion, empathy, and humility. We can all make a difference, individually and through our united efforts. This symposium is a curated suite of interactions that scaffold an approach to working together to co-create a future shaped by humanistic values and that embodies the compassionate heart and mind. In closing, I would like to acknowledge the outstanding efforts of Venerable Jay Wei and her team in the Humanistic Buddhism Centre at Nan Tien Institute for making this symposium the great success I am confident it will be. I encourage you to participate actively and fully in the symposium activities, and thank you for your commitment and concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. It is now my pleasure to welcome Chief Abbess of For Guangshan, Oceania, and Chairperson for the Hsing Education Foundation, Venerable Miao.
Auspicious greetings to everyone. We live in troubled times, increasingly challenged by human impact on the planet, which sustains us in global warming, a dangerously technologized world where our ability to destroy, as in nuclear war, radically outpaces the morality to guide to those who are in control and in the sidelining of compassion and sharing, which have resulted in massive global inequality and suffering. At heart of all these troubles is self-interest. At heart of a viable future is the need for the return to the strength and guiding force to our humanity, sharing, compassion, commitment, integrity, and perhaps above all, trust. All these are integral to Humanistic Buddhism value, promoted by our founder, Venerable Master Hsing, who have committed his life to enhancing happiness for all through education, culture, charitable works, and religion. He believes that we all are here for happiness and should work towards enhancing a better life for everyone. The theme of this symposium is Humanistic Buddhist Response to Modern Crisis. I would like to express my heartfelt appreciations to Professor Lancaster, Mr. Hugh Mackay, all speakers, panelists, moderators, and all who have made this symposium possible. You have selflessly shared with us your wisdom and compassion from a better humanity. May this symposium encourage interdisciplinary dialogues, stimulate creativity, and show how humanistic value can be applied within the context of issues that have arisen in contemporary society. May I also thank Venerable Miao, Chancellors of the Institute of Humanistic Buddhism, and Professor Denise Kirkpatrick. This symposium would not be possible with your guidance and support. May the merits from the symposium be transferred to all beings. May all be joyful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Venerable Manko. And I would now like to welcome Chancellor of the Institute of Humanistic Buddhism, Venerable Miao, to conduct an introduction to this symposium.
南天大学柯校长、澳纽总住持满可法师，以及所有的贵宾及发言人，大家吉祥，大家好。从2014年起，佛光山人间佛教研究院就开始每年举办人间佛教座谈会，希望透过座谈会推动人间佛教与各界对话。前7届我们主要在台湾佛光山举行，今年第8届人间佛教座谈会是我们首次跨国合作，与澳洲南天大学共同举办。我们非常期待经由这个开放的平台，促进彼此的了解与友谊，共同为世界和平尽一份心力。这次座谈会的主题是人间佛教对当代危机的应对。人类的危机从自身贪嗔痴烦恼的危机，到大自然反扑的危机，如瘟疫、水灾、风灾等各种天然灾害。从佛教缘起的思想看来，这些都是来自全人类共同的行为所造成的。正如法国思想家伏尔泰说，雪崩的时候，没有一片雪花是无辜的。一生推动人间佛教的星云大师认为，要消弭冲突和危机，我们要以行动落实尊重与包容，同中存异，异中不必求同。所谓各美其美，美人之美，美美与共，天下大同。有平等才能带来真正的和平。佛法说烦恼即菩提，意思是困难来的时候，也是我们提升、扩大、成就的因缘。同样的，危机也是人类生命转身的契机。正如兰卡舍教授所言，不要浪费危机给我们的机会。最后，感谢大家的参与，并祝福大会成功，各位身心自在，人间无忧。
Thank you, Venerable Miao. And something that really struck a chord with me in that speech was the Venerable's comment, 水崩的时候，没有一片水花是无辜的, that during an avalanche, no snowflake ever feels responsible. Originally, this was coined by the French Enlightenment philosopher Voltaire, and I think it is a great example of how ideas from the thinkers of different nations and time periods can transcend boundaries by resonating with crucial aspects of our shared humanity. We can always help and learn from one another. 互相帮助，互相借鉴. I would now like to introduce the symposium VIPs and speakers. For Guangshan founder and executives, Venerable Master Hsing Yun, founder of For Guangshan Buddha's Light International Association and its universities, including Nan Tien Institute. Venerable Manko, Chief Abbess of For Guangshan Oceania, Chairperson for the Hsing Yun Education Foundation. Venerable Miao, Chancellor for Guangshan Institute of Humanistic Buddhism. Our President of Nan Tien Institute, Professor Denise Kirkpatrick. Dean of Studies, Professor Rodney Vickers. And of course, our keynote speakers, Emeritus Professor Lewis Lancaster, leading international Buddhist studies scholar, and Hugh Mackay, AO, one of Australia's top social researchers. Our keynote dialogue host, Gawain Powell Davies. Our first panel, Creating an Inclusive Society, the moderator, Professor Mario Fernando, University of Wollongong. Professor B. Scherer, Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. Dr. Linus Lancaster, Heildsburg Unified School District and Prison University Project, San Quentin. Leanne Smith, Whitlam Institute, Western Sydney University. And Venerable Miao for Guangshan Institute of Humanistic Buddhism. Panel 2, Working Towards a More Humanistic Society of the Future, Challenges for the Self Within Complex Systems. Our moderator, Nick Reinberger. Emeritus Professor Stephen Hill, University of Wollongong. Dr. Leonard Fisher, University of Bristol. Dr. Peter D. Hershock, East-West Centre. And Venerable Dr. Jue Wei, Nan Tien Institute. Panel 3, Learning from Australian Responses to Modern Crises. Our moderator, Venerable Jue Feng, Hsing Yun Education Foundation. Associate Professor Anna Hal-Alfhoff, Deakin University. Tina Ung, Meta Legal and Meta Centre. And Meg Hart, Heart and Mind Associates. Panel 4, Revaluing Buddhist Adaptations in the Modern World. Moderator, Dr. Jane Chiu, Kintel. Dr. Jens Reinke, University of the West. Dr. Jonathan Ma. Dr. Melody Chu, RIHSS, Ministry of Science and Technology. And Joey Yao. Panel 5, Examining Humanistic Approaches to Health and Wellbeing. Our moderator, Emeritus Professor Suzanne Francois. Uni SA, Nan Tien Institute. Professor Will Taladha Douglas, Sit Yu Guan Consulting. Professor Malcolm Boyce, Macquarie University. Dr. Jonathan Page, Nan Tien Institute. And Dr. Kwong Chan, Griffith University. Panel 6, Putting Compassion into Action. Our moderator, Professor Rodney Vickers, Nan Tien Institute. Dr. Ian Sinclair, Nan Tien Institute. Dr. Sue Sumskis, Nan Tien Institute. Jane Wang from Nan Tien Institute, and Dr. Nadine Levy from Nan Tien Institute. It is now my great pleasure to introduce the opening ceremony performance by Out of the Blue Singers. They will be performing Harmonize, which is written by Venerable Master Hsing Yun.
Time has come to
Thank you so much to Out of the Blue singers for what was a truly amazing performance. And the audience can learn more about the group by visiting their website, www.wollongongchoir.com. So I will now be reciting a short poem to offer some final remarks. If you would like to follow along, the poem is now available for you to read in the chat. And I'd like to close in rhythm and rhyme, as there is no better way to make the most of limited time. Is our modern predicament a predetermined path, or will we come full circle, guided by the wizard's staff? What is it the sage points to over yonder? He tells us this is a question the human mind cannot ponder. Buddhists, Hindus, Christians, and Sikhs all insist the answer is within. Start with the breath is where you must begin. In the present moment lies the fundamental truth, a truth so profound it requires but a single proof. You are alive, here and now, alongside the rest of existence. Does this not demonstrate life's wondrous persistence? From simple to complex runs the course of evolution. But what drives life in search of a solution? Cause and effect are one, part of the same mystery that powers the sun. I know that, yogi. What is the point of your silly riddle? Such a reaction is but testimony to you being stuck in the middle, torn between the ego and shallow emotion, propelled forward in a state of perpetual negative locomotion. We are our greatest obstruction. Unconsciousness is driving humanity towards destruction. Say you know, but your understanding does not play out into action. You go about living as if life were a one-sided transaction, instructed to indulge every desire. Sit back, relax, consume. Such are the words propagated by our capitalist messiah. But the walls are coming down around us, and you and I can no longer pretend that this can go on forever, mindless consumption with no end. Before the last stone falls from its place, from the dust, a different world will trace. Our response to the modern predicament will be sown with indestructible filament. Empathy, compassion, and all that is meta. Take these with you in pursuit of the better. With this, I pull the curtains on our opening ceremony shut and leave the rest with you. Goodbye, my friend, adieu, and good luck. We will recommence shortly with our keynote address at 1 p.m. AEDT, and we look forward to seeing you all shortly. Thank you.